Hello there. What's going on, everybody? Today we're asking the question, what to buy first if you're going to be playing Rebels, if you're on a budget for Star Wars Legion. So I do these videos and I am updating this one for February of 2020. And this is what you want to buy first for Star Wars Legion Rebel faction. If you're interested in other factions, I will have other videos available for those, so be sure to check them out. I'll put a link to maybe my Imperial one at the end of the video, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Also, there is still time to enter to win the latest giveaway for a $25 Amazon gift card. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment. It's as simple as that. And in case you don't win this one, there's plenty of other giveaways going on. I have them running all the time. So with that being said, hopefully you find this helpful and feel like subscribing anyway. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. We're going to talk about what you need to get first. And in all Fantasy Flight games, the first thing you need is a core set. So it's important that you get this core set, though, the one with Darth Vader on the box, because there are two different core sets, and one is going to have Empire and Rebels, like this one right here with Darth Vader, and Luke Skywalker is going to be in there. You're going to get some Stormtroopers. You're going to get some speeder bikes. You're going to get some Rebel Troopers. You're going to get an AT-RT. You're going to get Luke. And so all of that stuff is great. You're going to need all that stuff. Well, you probably won't need the Imperial stuff. You can probably trade that to another player for maybe their Rebel stuff. Sometimes that works out if you happen to get in with a buddy that's playing the same time you are. If not, you want to play multiple factions, that's good too. Either way, it's still a tremendous value because you're getting 3 different expansions worth of stuff, plus a whole bunch of extra accessories, an extra Luke model on top of that for a second core set. Second core set is a great value. It's worth getting more than just one because you're just going to get so much more in that box. Even the dice alone is just something that people always need more of. And granted, you can go with additional dice packs or maneuver template packs or things like that. You can get extra tools and extra plastic, but it's just generally a really good value to pick up a second core set, especially if you can find one on a deal. Otherwise, you can potentially split with a friend or share a core set. If you have somebody else who's interested in playing Imperials, you can play Rebels and be good to go. Now, also pointing out, there is also a Clone Wars core set. You probably don't want to do that one unless you're also playing Clone Wars, but I'm going to be doing Clone Wars What to Buy First faction-specific videos, so be sure to look out for those. Also, if you want to see my Imperial What to Buy First, I'll be putting a link at the end all the way up there. All right, so after you get the core set, and hopefully you've got a second core set, what else should you get? Well, I forgot to mention this in my Imperial video, but you definitely get the upgrade card pack. The upgrade card pack is very, very cheap, so it factors very well if you're on a budget, and it has a lot of cards in this that are maybe not available to all factions. And so if you don't maybe want to play Clone Wars factions or whatever, there's going to be a lot of cards that come with expansions that might not be available to you. The upgrade card pack is going to have a wealth of extra cards, extra copies of cards, so you're not going to be forced to buying expansions that maybe you don't want just because they only came in this pack or only in that pack. So the upgrade card pack has a ton of extra upgrade cards. Great value. Really, really cheap. You kind of can't go wrong with the upgrade card pack, if you can find it, because right now they kind of sell out quickly wherever they are, so you may have to find it online. But then when we get into actual plastic expansions, one of the first things I'm going to suggest is a Rebel Veterans unit. This one is a great value, and I really like this unit for a number of reasons. Now, they did just kind of receive a slight nerf in that one of the units that comes in here used to take a popular upgrade, and that was no longer allowed to go on them anymore. So some people might argue that Rebel Veterans are slightly less powerful or slightly less versatile than they used to be. But either way, they're still, in my opinion, a fantastic unit. One of the best Rebel units that you can run, especially for their point cost. And I think they're just fantastic. Now, one of the things that makes this rank so high in my book, not only is it a good unit, but it comes with 2 units. You're actually getting a Mark II and the Rebel Veteran unit all in one. They're very, very, very strong, and they don't have the range that the Imperial Shore Troopers have, but for the Rebels, for that range 3 kind of bubble that they do have, they do very, very well with that. And of course, I happen to be a big fan of Hoth, so I probably have a little bit of bias towards putting them a little bit higher up. But great value for this particular pack. Also, it's an extra core unit, which if you only did get the 1 core set, here's a great way to round out your core units, because you do have to have at least 3 core in a standard 800 point build. Well, here you've got 2 core units in a single box. So this is going to put you from only 2 all the way up to 4. So if you didn't want to get a whole separate core set, to have that secondary one, I mean, heck, some people will buy 3 core sets, and it's still, for the value, it's still pretty good. But if you're not going that route, Rebel Veterans expansion is going to give you lots of core. You may even want to get 2 of these. They're just that good. I really like them a lot. Next up, I'm going to go with the Rebel Troopers Upgrade expansion. The Rebel Troopers Upgrade expansion is a really, really cool upgrade expansion, and it's giving the Rebel Troopers some cool options. It's not maybe one of the best out of all of the Rebel Trooper upgrade expansions that exist for all of the factions, but one of the things that it gives for the Rebellion is that range 4 attack that you can put on your Rebel Troopers. Now, this is only going to upgrade Rebel Trooper units, so it's not going to upgrade, your Rebel Veterans or any of those other sets. However, you've already got 2 Rebel Trooper units since you bought a core set. So this is a great way to get extra value out of something that you already have. And on top of that, it does come with an extra Rebel Trooper unit card, so you can use your spare 4 minis as a kind of vanilla Rebel Trooper unit on top of all of that. So a lot of list diversity and a lot of fun, cool alien sculpts too in this particular pack. Next up, Tauntaun Ryders. Now, I recognize you probably already have a support in your core set. You've got an ATRT. Well, let's grab another support. The Tauntaun Ryders are really strong. They also did recently receive a nerf, and that creature troopers were basically slightly changed the rules for creature troopers, because they used to be able to just keep moving through everything and just kind of break behind enemy lines and keep moving back and forth and just running through everything. And now they kind of changed them a little bit to where you have to withdraw if you end your turn engaged. So like next turn you'll have to basically to disengage, you're gonna have to withdraw like a lot of normal units tend to do. But this wasn't just a change to Tauntaun Ryders, this was a change to creature troopers across the board. Still, that being said, they're still a very good unit. They're very fast. They serve a variety of roles. And while they're not quite as menacing to play against now, they are still quite a threat. They're going to have dodge tokens. They're going to still be, I think, one of the biggest threats on the board. And also Hoth, which is one of my favorite things, so I have to put them up pretty high. They're also really fun to paint too, because you got that fur. I really like the Tauntaun Ryders for a number of reasons, but I think they are super fun to play. They can still cross the board very quickly, which is going to make them very useful for a number of different objectives, and they can still cause a lot of damage. They're very threatening, and I feel like they're a lot more well-rounded now with the changes. Just a great unit overall. Next up, the Rebel Commandos. Amazing value in this particular box. They are, I say amazing value, but I rank them a little bit lower than like my first couple. And the reason for that is, while you are getting 2 different units in this particular box, you're probably only going to use 1. So that's why, you're getting a good value here, but I think long term you're probably only going to use the sniper or at least the strike team. And so basically, the Commandos packs, they come with a full unit of Commandos, and then they come with a strike team of Commandos. And each one can take a heavy weapons. The strike team has to take a heavy weapon, and it comes with 2 different heavy weapons. So you can have, ideally, you can have like a sniper strike team and a saboteur full unit, or vice versa, a saboteur strike team and a sniper full unit. But generally, people buy these just for the sniper strike team. Snipers are very, very strong in this game. They did get a nerf a couple of months back, but they're still extremely strong and cheap. They offer a very inexpensive activation, which is one of the strategies, is having a high activation count, at least high enough to do what you need to do. That being said, still a great value, especially for your starter games, for your earlier games when you're still learning the different unit types, how special forces work compared to supports versus heavies versus core, etc. You're still going to be able to have the option to run 2 units. And there's something to be said in your first game about running maybe a sniper strike team and a saboteur full unit. That's not bad. That's not bad at all, as a matter of fact. So you're still getting really good value out of this particular pack. And it's a Special Forces, which maybe you didn't have one already, so Special Forces are pretty cool in that regards. It's kind of a good intro to what a specialty unit can do. Next up, I'm going to go with Leia. Leia is a much cheaper commander option if you want to maybe not have to run Luke Skywalker and you want maybe a supportive commander. Of course, you can run multiple commanders if you want, but Leia, and look, the commander expansions are cheap. I recognize you already have a commander in your core set since you bought it and has Luke, but Luke is kind of expensive. Leia is much, much cheaper and has tremendous utility. Leia is great, and some of her command cards are really, really great, and they actually combo well with some others. So if you're going down the list, Leia combos well with Tauntauns. Leia combos well with a lot of other things, and the fact that she's got this one pip that lets her shoot 3 times, which makes her a really good potential anti-sniper. So I really like Leia. Next up, the Rebel Specialists pack. This is a great value pack. This one comes with 4 different minis. They are personnel upgrades that can go in any of your units, which is really cool. Any units that can take personnel, which are just core currently. But this gives you a leader, a medic, an astromech droid, and a comms tech, and they give you a wealth of different abilities. The leader's really useful. The medic is incredibly useful. I really like the comms tech combined with the Rebel veterans, as a matter of fact, because the Rebel specialists, give them that ability to take an HQ uplink, and then they can give the order to their own Mark II automatically without even needing to get an order from the commander. Just really great synergy there. But the Rebel Specialist gives you 4 minis to upgrade 4 different units. So you're getting a lot of versatility here. Additionally, you also can use that leader mini as a generic Rebel commander. Now, if you use them as a generic Rebel commander, you're not also going to have the mini to put as the leader for the other unit. But you're getting 4 minis in this box. It's not too expensive. A ton of versatility. Very, very good. Very, very good buy. Next up, I'm going to go with our first operative on this list, and that's going to be Sabine Wren. Sabine is incredible. She is very strong. She is that Mandalorian backpack material, so she's got that speed 3, she's got jump, she's got the dark saber. She is super fun. Might be a little bit daunting to paint if you're brand new to the game, because she's got one of the most complex type of armor systems, but she can be built multiple different ways. You can build her with her helmet, without her helmet, with dark saber, or just pistols. Really cool stuff. This is when they really started getting very, very, very good at the sculpting and coming up with more and more options, even for the soft plastics. So Sabine, really cool, very fun, slightly more advanced unit, and like some of the subtleties of her gameplay are probably going to be better, I think, if you've played the game a little bit more and then are ready to try a slightly more advanced unit. So she's kind of going down a little bit in the rankings because of that. Next up, Han Solo, another commander expansion. He's also a little bit cheaper, but at the same time, Han Solo, I think, is probably less impactful to the game overall than Leia is. But Han does different things. He's fun. I think his command cards are great, but the unit himself is just kind of okay. He's on here because he's going to work well with my next pick, Chewbacca, who's another operative. Chewie and Han do work well together. It would be nice if they didn't have to be played together. I mean, they don't really have to be played together, but most people tend to do that. Chewbacca is another operative. Not super competitive, but very, very fun. And of course, you're probably going to want to get a lot of your all-stars, right? You're going to want to get your recognizable heroes for the Rebel faction, so of course you want to pick up Chewie. But yeah, Han and Chewie kind of go together, so if you buy one, you probably want to get the other one at the same time. So I'm putting those together here. Next up, the X-34 Landspeeder. This is the first heavy vehicle on the list. Heavies are kind of hit or miss. They're kind of tough to field, primarily because they consume a lot of points. And it's all in one activation, kind of like having a 200-point commander. Some people are a little reluctant to really do that, except you have to have at least one commander. You don't have to have any heavies. The X-34 is a pretty welcome addition to the game, though it is fairly functional. It can be used as a transport. It's like if you were running somebody like Han Solo and you want to transport him into the middle of the battlefield really quick because he's got kind of a shorter range attack, this is one way to do that. The X-34 can only transport one miniature, though, as opposed to a whole unit. So you can't really have a whole team of people riding on this thing because they've only got one seat open for you. So that kind of makes it hard because the Rebels do have a lot of full units that they would love to be able to drop off, and that's kind of one thing that's lacking from the X-34. But it has some pretty impressive firepower if you build it out appropriately, and it has that compulsory move, which even if it somehow loses an action due to being ionized or damaged somehow, you can still move and shoot, which is always really a nice thing. So I kind of like the X-34. Next up is the Fleet Troopers. These used to rank a lot higher on my list, and one of the reasons for that is there used to be less stuff available, and there's so much more out now that I think it's really cast these guys down as far as their functionality and their competitiveness. Now, that being said, great sculpts. They're very iconic characters, very fun to paint. It's really cool to be able to these were the first Rebels a lot of people ever saw because it was in that opening scene of Episode 4, that opening battle scene. So these are going to be very iconic for a lot of folks. Now, why aren't they that great? Well, one of the reasons for that is if you play competitively, a lot of tournament tables don't have quite so much line of sight blocking terrain, and I feel like Fleet Troopers in this game want to be fighting in corridors very much like in the movie. They're kind of built for close quarters combat, and in order to survive long enough to get into close quarters combat, they kind of have to be moving through corridors and big walls and things that are totally blocking their ability to receive fire from enemies. And the problem right now is a lot of times boards tend to be built with lots of open firing. Sometimes there's heavy cover, but they're basically, by the time they get close enough to you to shoot you, they may already be weakened and or dead. And so, with all of the stuff that's come out since the last What to Buy First video I've done for the Rebels, these guys used to be, I think, in the first 5, and now they're down pretty farther in my list, just because the game has kind of evolved into a certain way. They could go up again. At some point, since they've already released, a Rebel Troopers upgrade pack, we might see a Fleet Troopers upgrade pack at some point. And there's a couple of things that these guys could get to really help them out. And at such time, they may actually rise a little bit higher in my list. But as of right now, they're kind of lower on the what to buy list. Next up is Jyn Erso. Jyn's another commander. Jyn's actually a really cool commander. She's kind of in between a lot of other commanders as far as points and the balance factor of where she is. She's not super cheap, but she's also not super deadly, and she's kind of right in between a lot of them. She offers some very, very cool utility, however, through her command cards, and specifically her 1-pip card is incredibly annoying. Now, Jyn isn't very popular in the game right now with me making this video. She's not one of the most played Rebel commanders. However, me personally, I face her all the time, so I happen to have I kind of hold her a little bit higher than most other people do, but I still didn't want to jump her up too much in the rankings because I do feel that Jyn is one of those commanders that's very, very good if you practice a lot with her. And she has, I think, a little bit higher of a learning curve on how to master her playstyle. So I rank her a little bit lower for that regard when it comes, for new players. If you're just getting into the game, she may not be one of the things you need to get right away. Same thing goes for Rebel Pathfinders. These are also from the Battle of Scarif, that Rogue One themed expansion. They tend to work very well with Jyn. You probably, if you're going to buy one, you may want to buy the other one together. They work well together. The Pathfinders are going to come with 2 different heavy weapon options, and those are both named options. They're POW and Bistan, and they offer the Rebels some long-range attack potential. It's just something that the Rebels kind of didn't have before here. Also, Jyn and the Rebel Pathfinders both have the infiltrate keyword that gives them the ability to be deploying kind of in the middle of the battlefield, which is part of the learning curve because you deploy too aggressively, too far forward, and you get killed on the first turn. You deploy too far backwards, and then you've wasted your ability. So there's a delicate balance in finding just the right place to deploy and how to use them, which deployments, which configuration to deploy them in. Should you be in short range or long range? It kind of depends on how the cover is. There's a whole lot of really surveying the battlefield and mastering how to effectively use this guy or these guys, and that kind of ranks them a little bit lower on my what to buy first list. Next up, the Wookiee Warriors. I'm going to just preface this with, I happen to love the Wookiee Warriors. I happen to love them quite a lot, but their lack of defensive potential tends to mean they get killed before they can get close enough. These guys are like, I talk about fleet troopers wanting to get in close. These guys really want to get in close, and that does make it a little bit tricky to keep them alive long enough for them to get in close, especially as more and more players are focusing on longer range attacks and having gun lines and mowing down a unit like this before it can get to you. That is something that definitely happens. And again, a lot of people's tables, a lot of tournament setups have a lot more open terrain. I tend to like to have a lot of walls and buildings, so units can kind of approach in safety. But not everybody plays that way, and so like for a lot of competitive tabletops and terrain setups, Wookiee warriors tend to really struggle. So, I mean, if you're a big fan of Wookiees, you can get these first if you want, but they aren't necessarily too competitive right now. I would love to see that changed. I would love to see them maybe get a points reduction at some point, something like that. But as of right now, while they are fun, they're probably going to be dead before you can really employ them. So I put them a little bit lower on my what to buy first list. Another great unit, though, if you can master them, how to deploy them, how to approach safely. If you can get all that stuff done, you can have a lot of fun with the Wookiee warriors. Next up, the T47 Airspeeder. I really liked the T47. It was one of the first vehicles out. It's not going to be cheap, though, so that's one of the reasons why it's a little bit lower on my list. And also, it's just kind of in that in-between spot of some people really love to use it, some people really hate to use it, but it uses up a lot of points. It is... and it's got a really fast compulsory move, so it can be tricky for a newer player because you may end up crashing it quite a bit, and then you take a lot of damage when you crash. You're going to take 3 damage every time you crash this thing, which is pretty rough. The T47, I enjoy it, but it takes a little bit of practice. Not the best vehicle out there, but they can be a lot of fun. We've got, next up, Luke Skywalker. Jedi Luke. Operative Luke Skywalker. Now, this guy's great. He's absolutely great. Wonderful commander, giving you a ton of new potential, new ways to use Luke. I just put him lower because you've already got Luke, and regular Luke is pretty good. And a lot of the new strategies and command cards and things that this is going to give you, because it comes with a whole different Luke Skywalker miniature. But you can only have one Luke, and right, like you've already got a Luke. So do you really want to start buying duplicates of characters you already have? So I rank this a little bit lower if you're newer to the game. But with that being said, he is awesome. He is he's a Jedi, right? Like this represents an upgraded Luke Skywalker that is, got his black outfit and green lightsaber. He's now on episode 6 and he's ready to face Darth Vader. He is fantastic. The cards he comes with. The cards he comes with are great. You can mix and match both Luke Skywalker's cards. You can put them all together. You can. One of the things that makes this particular version of Luke a little bit trickier to run is that you still need to run a commander because he's an operative this time instead of just being a commander. So, there's a tax on trying to run him because you're going to need another commander. So you can't just have one person. Granted, you can run the generic commander, but you may want to consider running also somebody like Han or Leia, possibly also. Now, with that being said, I love him. He's great. The only reason he's low is because I think you've already got a Luke, and we may not want to double dip quite that early. Maybe. Next up, the Crashed Escape Pod Battlefield expansion. I don't have all of the Battlefield expansions on here because a lot of times they're just terrain, and then sometimes they offer like a scenario or something like that. Those aren't really faction specific, right? But this one is actually faction specific or dual faction specific because the Crashed Escape Pod, while it does come with like a scenario, it comes with its own cards for deployment objectives and conditions. It's got all of that and a terrain piece, which is kind of nice. It's actually a really pretty terrain piece, but it's a little expensive for just a terrain piece. Now, it also comes with R2-D2 and C-3PO. That's why I have it on this list. That's why I have it for the Rebels. Now, any faction can buy it if they want it for just the terrain. I don't particularly think it's a very good buy just for the terrain. I think if you buy this, you're buying it for R2 and 3PO. If you just want the terrain and you play some other faction, I'm sure there's probably a Rebel or even Republic player out there who bought this just for R2 and 3PO that would happily sell you the plastic for the terrain piece. But yeah, so R2 and 3PO, very cool. They are dual faction, right? They have cards in here for their Rebellion to use R2D2 and C3PO, and they also have cards in here for the Republic to use R2D2 and C3PO. So this one actually, if you are playing more than one faction, this one goes up quite a bit in the what to buy first. You're really just getting like one small unit with just 2 miniatures, but it's way more expensive. I think it's like $40. So it's a lot more expensive than most 2 miniature size packs. So if you're on a budget, this one's a whole lot of cost, physical cost for just C3PO basically, or R2D2 and C3PO rather. So that's kind of why it's lower on this list. Speaking of Battlefield expansions, the Vital Assets pack. We're getting down into like the things that you can get last potentially, but I think Vital Assets is just good for any player who is wanting to kind of expand their gameplay a little bit. Look, you're in the game, right? You've been playing the objective condition deployment cards that are in the core game. Well, Vital Assets is coming out. Now, this one, as at the time of me recording this video, this isn't even fully spoiled yet. So we haven't even seen everything that's in here. But it is giving you new condition, deployment, and objective cards, which is going to drastically change the game. It's going to give you the option to build your list very differently. This is going to be one of those expansions that fundamentally changes how people approach list building and how they approach playing the game. So this one is going to be pretty darn significant. So if you've been playing for a little bit, you've picked up a lot of stuff on this list, at a certain point, before you start really playing competitively, I think you really need to pick up a copy of Vital Assets. Also, Priority Supplies. Slightly lesser of Priority Supplies. This was the first Battlefield expansion. Well, I guess technically the Barricades were probably the first Battlefield expansion, but this was the first Battlefield expansion in a cardboard box that they put out, and it has stuff that can represent tokens like crates and moisture evaporators and things like that. But it also comes with a condition, a deployment, and an objective. And they're pretty popular ones too. The moisture evaporators, the landmines, and the advanced positions are good cards. And, you may not need this one right away, especially if you get the other one first. But both of them together are going to give you, you're going to want to have the access to all the different deployment, objective, and condition cards that the game has to offer, so you can actually build out your deck that you're going to bring to the game. Now we're getting into some of the units that at least as of right now, that I think you can probably wait a little bit longer on. And one is going to be the 1.4 FD turret. Or laser cannon team. This thing is it's stationary. And now, as much as I love Hoth, and I do, this thing is stationary. It can't move. And that's pretty punishing to a new player, right? A lot of people, will put this in maybe the wrong spot, or there's like a little building in the way, and now they can't ever move around it, and so anybody can approach them, from that spot. It's just very punishing if you deploy it wrong. So, and it can make you kind of have a feels bad kind of day if you don't deploy it just right, or get the deployment that really works for it. So this one has definitely got more of a learning curve, and it doesn't have as much of a fun factor to it. Now, granted, if you're definitely going for a Hoth-themed list, then this goes way up higher in the rankings. But, if you're doing something like that, you're probably beyond the scope of this video. So I think the 1.4 FD laser cannon team can kind of wait a little bit. Next up, we're getting to the very bottom of the barrel here, and that's the ATRT expansion. Now, you've already got one in the core set. There's nothing in here you need. There was I think a single upgrade that came in this one that wasn't really available to Rebels outside of this pack when the game first launched. But then when the T47 Airspeeder came out, it was in that one too, so you didn't even need this pack unless if you were okay with just waiting a little bit. But yeah, the only thing that you're really going to get if you do buy this expansion that you might not have otherwise is an alternate pose for the ATRT. Now, I will also preface this. If you start getting competitive, a triple ATRT build is a thing that sometimes people will run. It's actually moderately effective. It may not be moderately effective later on in the year when, some people are predicting anti-vehicle metas might spring up, and hey, that would be really interesting to see. But, if you want to run like a triple ATRT build and you maybe only have 2 core sets, I could see maybe picking up one of these, possibly. But yeah, ATRT. And then the last is the Rebel Troopers. There's really no redeeming value in buying a Rebel Trooper expansion unless maybe you screwed up your Rebel Troopers, you painted them wrong, and you just want to try painting them again or something like that. There was, I think, one card that came in here that wasn't available again for like a few months when the game first launched, but now it's all over the place. And of course, if you got that card pack too, you probably got access to all the cards that may have been restricted or in limited supply. But the Rebel Troopers, the sculpt's the same as the core set. You've already got 2 of them in the core set, and there's lots more core options available. You don't need any more Rebel Troopers unless, of course, maybe you just want them. And hey, if you just want them, then you just want them. And that's really kind of what this list kind of boils down to. This is just my opinion. If there's something that you want, then that takes priority. If there's somebody else who gives you advice that maybe you kind of like that advice better than my advice, hey, that's cool. This isn't supposed to be a definitive list. This is just my list, my opinion, and hopefully my reasons might make sense to you. So if you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like or click that subscribe button. There are a couple of things that you can buy together that tend to work really well. Also, there was a patron on Patreon who had suggested, when I do some of these, to maybe talk about bundle ideas. So I'm going to throw a couple of bundle ideas at you also. First one, a very popular meta thing has been triple Tauntaun. So like certain things you can buy in multiples that work well together. I'm not sure how viable that's going to be, moving forward in 2020 and beyond. I think maybe a mixture of support units is probably going to be more important, but triple Tauntaun is still pretty cool. I think it will still be strong for a very, very long time. It just may not be as broken as it has been in the months leading up to me creating this video. Triple Sniper is another thing that is very, very, very common, and that's going to be like 3 of those Rebel Commandos and just using the Sniper Strike Team from those particular packs. Another popular combination is Sabine and Luke, and generally Commander Luke seems to be the more common option in that case, because Sabine being an operative, you wouldn't also be able to take operative Luke without also having to add a commander, and then that creates a really serious tax. Now half your list is just in those 3 characters. So generally Sabine and Luke work well together. They both are lightsaber wielding characters, and that makes for a very, very dangerous combination if you can get them both close up into close proximity to enemy troops. So Sabine, if that's something that you're thinking of, maybe get Sabine first. That might, because you've already got Luke in the core set. That's an option. Another thing is your heroes, right? If you are thinking maybe more from a fun thematic standpoint, you can run Han, Chewie, Leia, and Luke all together if you get the operative Luke expansion with buying also Han, Chewie, and Leia, because you have a maximum of 2 commanders and two operatives. And so you can start out running Han as a commander and Leia as a commander, and then operative Luke as one operative and Chewie as another operative. And the cool thing about that, in that case, Chewbacca actually has really cool command cards that allow him to work with both or either Han or Leia or Luke, or potentially all 3 if you run all 3 of them. Now, I don't think Chewie's command cards are good enough to make him really want to, run all 3 of them. But it's cool having those kind of options. Although it's a little bit crazy if you're running all 4 of them, trying to pick which one pips to use, and like just trying to pick command cards with that many heroes in your build is very much of a daunting task. But it's a fun kind of task to have. And so that is basically my Rebel What to Buy First one on a budget list. If you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Big thanks to my patrons. If you guys are interested in supporting this channel, there's lots of ways you can do that. You can follow me on other social media. I have links for those down below. Also Patreon. That's kind of an obvious one, but Patreon is incredibly important. It definitely helps inform and keep this channel running. So in different patron tiers, can request videos, and there's a whole lot more information there. I won't talk too much more about it. But yeah, Patreon is amazing. Also, there's shirts and other things down there, and merch. It also helps support the channel. So if there's anything that you're interested in there, that'd be great. But or just watch the videos. I appreciate you guys watching the videos. I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for hanging out with me today, and be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments. And once again, thanks to the patrons. You guys are wonderful and amazing, and I couldn't do this without you. So thank you so much. And as always, have a great day.